seriously.
"I feel a certain responsibility," he said, and then shrugged. "Never mind, I don't suppose you'd understand."
A small section of the great door opened, creaking as though in protest.
"Oh, it's you, Mr. Sutton, sir."
A grim-faced warder doffed his hat, stepping back a pace, and Mary found herself within the yard. Wondering why she was allowing a stranger to manipulate her, she glanced up at him, almost against her will, and a tremor shuddered through her. He looked mysterious in the dim light, his eyes appeared turquoise, and the breeze lifted dark curls from his brow. Then he smiled, and it was as though the clouds had suddenly parted to reveal bright sunshine. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was light, insubstantial, and she hardly recognized it as her own.
"Brandon Sutton."
His reply was brief and to the point, and Mary felt unnerved by his presence. She moved away from him, unaware of the silent warder waiting to lead them into the main prison building, until the American took her arm firmly and drew her forward. "What are you doing here?" She forced herself to speak as she was hurried along the wind-swept yard towards a flight of steps.
"The same as you, I guess. I wish to see Billy Gray."
"Why?" The word came out hard and flat, and Mary stared at Brandon Sutton, her chin lifted as though defying him to deny her an answer.
"I'd like to question him," he replied lightly.
But a narrowing of the turquoise eyes showed his displeasure at her abrupt question.
"Go on ahead, sir."
The warder spoke with gruff diffidence, and Brandon nodded.
"Thank you, Griffiths."
He moved swiftly up the steps, leading Mary up the short flight and into a dingy hallway.
"You'd best wait here. At least you'll have some privacy."
Mary felt strangely bereft as Brandon Sutton vanished from sight, and she was prevented from following him by the outstretched arm of the warder, his rugged face impassive. "Why am I being kept here?" she asked breathlessly. "I have more right to see Billy Gray than that stranger, surely." The warder looked at her without interest.
"You will have to wait until you are called. This isn't the Mackworth Arms, you know. Grateful to Mr. Sutton, you should be. He brought you in out of the rain, didn't he?"
Mary swallowed her anger and seated herself on a bench, staring round the dingy walls, unrelieved by even a single window. She clasped her hands together in her lap and looked down at her neatly polished boots, trying to quell the frustration and anger that flowed through her. She felt demeaned, as though she had become tainted by the very sight and smell of the prison. This was no place for her love, for her dear, gentle Billy. She closed her eyes, forcing her thoughts away from her surroundings. She wondered how the girls were faring at the laundry. 3 long weeks she had been absent from work, for since Billy's arrest she had been too worried to think of anything but him. She realised that the Canal Street laundry could function perfectly well without her, and that everything would run along on oiled wheels as usual. The checking would be done properly, the delivery rounds would be as regular as ever, and Doris would still be hauling her scuttle full of coal to stoke the boilers. Yet a tiny part of Mary hoped that she would be missed. She had been relieved and grateful when Mally Richardson, owner of the laundry, had advised her to take some time off work, and had grasped the opportunity with both hands, knowing that Billy would need all the support she could give him. Not that she had done very much in that direction so far, except to try to cheer his Aunt Agnes with false optimism, and to find young Rian a job in the packing room. Billy's sister had taken the position with the utmost reluctance, irritated rather than pleased at Mary's intervention. She made it quite clear that there was no love lost between them. Mary brushed the disquieting thoughts aside and gave herself up to reminiscing about the happy and satisfying years she had spent at the laundry. She could picture Mally Richardson as she had first seen her. Mally Llewellyn as she was then, small and white-faced, a girl who had arrived at work with an anxious frown creasing her high, intelligent forehead. Mally had been